It wasn't long before whispers began to ripple through Silver Ridge. Small-town folks are used to routine, but not this kind. Not animals behaving like mourners, like witnesses, like sentinels keeping watch. By week 3, locals started showing up at the cemetery just to see it for themselves. They came in flannel pajamas, with coffee cups and quiet disbelief, expecting it to be some viral hoax or coincidence. But every time they saw the same thing. Axel, head bowed, paws moving like shovels, digging at Lily's grave with a kind of urgency no one could explain. Children asked if Axel was trying to bring Lily back. Parents told them not to be silly, but secretly, some of them wondered the same. The sheriff, Ben Walker, stood by the iron fence one misty morning and watched in silence as 10 dogs worked in rhythm. None barked, none played. It wasn't a pack. It was something more precise, more reverent, like church. "What are they doing?" a young mother asked quietly, clutching her son's hand. "Working," Frank Holler said, arms crossed, like they know what's down there. Sheriff Walker's eyes didn't leave Axel, who had just paused in his digging to glance up. Their eyes locked amber, meeting Steeland for a second. Time froze. There was no fear in the dog's gaze, no plea for help, just a question. "Why? Aren't you listening?" People started calling it the graveyard gathering. Some thought it was supernatural. Others blamed pheromones or coincidence. But the explanations didn't add up. Not when dogs from different neighborhoods, all with different owners, kept finding their way to the same patch of earth. Not when fences were jumped, doors scratched through, leashes snapped. Emily Miller, Lily's mother, tried to explain it once at school. "He still waits by the door," she said of Axel, like he's listening for her voice. She didn't mention that he had stopped eating, or that he had taken to sleeping in Lily's closet, curled around her shoes as if they still held her scent. Nor did she speak of the day her neighbor, 72-year-old Margaret Ellis, whispered something through the screen door that made her blood run cold. "I saw him," Margaret said. "That day at the lake, he didn't run toward the lifeguards. He ran the other way toward the old boathouse." If true, it would change everything, because the official story said Lily drowned, that her body was never recovered because the lake's current swept her away. But Axel didn't believe that. And maybe, just maybe, he was the only one who had seen the truth. So he dug, every day, without fail, through rain, through snow, not out of habit, not out of hope, out of knowing, because sometimes love doesn't wait for proof. Sometimes it just digs. And this wasn't grief. It was a rescue that hadn't finished yet. Six months before the dogs began to gather, the town of Silver Ridge had buried a little girl without ever finding her body. Her name was Lily Rose Miller. She had just turned 8. The official story was simple. A tragic accident, a summer day. At Maple Creek Lake, where families came to swim and grill hot dogs, where kids splashed past the buoys and adults sipped sweet tea on fold-out chairs. No one saw it coming. One minute, Lily was playing in the water. The next, a teenage lifeguard named Tyler Kane was yelling. He said he'd seen her go under near the dock. Others joined the search. Chaos erupted, but the water gave nothing back. They called in divers, boats, drones. No trace. The lake was deep in parts, and the current strong. Dr. Edward Collins, a well-respected local physician, told the grieving parents that the body could have been swept into the river. "It happens," he said at the town hall meeting. "Unseen currents, sudden drownings. It's rare, but not impossible. There was no evidence to the contrary. No body, no clue, just an absence. And so they planned a funeral with an empty casket. Jacob and Emily Miller chose white satin for the lining. They placed Lily's favorite books inside, her teddy bear, and a beaded bracelet she'd made the week before, the kind with mismatched letters and plastic stars. Axel, the German shepherd they'd adopted for Lily on her 8th birthday, had to be sedated just to get through the service. He didn't bark. He howled. Neighbors would say later that the sound didn't even seem canine. It was like something human, someone whispered, like grief with teeth. When the crowd dispersed, Axel stayed behind. He lay down next to the fresh dirt and refused to leave until Jacob carried him home in his arms. That night, Jacob stood in the kitchen long after midnight, staring at nothing. The coffee in his cup had gone cold. Emily was upstairs, crying into Lily's pillow. Grief hollowed the house like termites in wood. Jacob, a former army ranger turned construction foreman, stopped going to work. He started fixing things that weren't broken, repainting walls, installing new light switches. He told Emily it helped keep him busy, but the truth was simpler. He needed to move. Because when he stopped moving, he saw Lily's face. Emily returned to her 2nd grade classroom 2 weeks after the funeral, but her students noticed the difference. She smiled too hard. Her voice shook. She often stepped into the hallway during lessons, returning with red-rimmed eyes and the scent of hand sanitizer. They were broken. Both of them, in different ways. But Axel... Axel never stopped moving. The vet said dogs can mirror trauma. He just needs time, she told them. But this wasn't just trauma. This was obsession. Every morning, at exactly 5:47 a.m., Axel would escape. No matter where he was kept, locked in the basement. He chewed through the door, left in the garage. He clawed through drywall, tied in the yard. He snapped the leash. Jacob rebuilt the backyard fence 3 times. It didn't matter. Axel always got out. And every time, he ran the same path to Silver Ridge Cemetery, to Lily's grave. There he would dig, again and again and again. By the 3rd week, others joined him. A Labrador named Scout from down the street, a border collie named Maisie, a mutt called Bruno with a crooked leg and one cloudy eye, dogs whose owners swore they'd never behaved like this before, dogs who found their own way to the cemetery, without invitation or encouragement. Frank Hollis, the cemetery caretaker, had had enough. "I want them gone," he told Sheriff Ben Walker one morning, slamming his pickup's tailgate. "It ain't natural. I keep refilling that grave, and every damn time it's dug up again." Walker came to see for himself. He stood quietly by the fence, hands in his jacket pockets, watching the pack of dogs. They weren't barking, weren't fighting, just ... digging, like machines. Like monks in ritual. Frank stood beside him, arms folded. "Look at them," he muttered. "They ain't playing. They're working." Walker didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on one dog, Axel. The German shepherd paused mid-dig and turned his head. Their eyes met. There was no fear. Number. Growl. Just a silent, unspoken plea. "Look closer." Emily didn't know how to explain any of it. She stopped trying. When another teacher asked about Axel's strange behavior, she just said, "He still waits by the door, like he's listening." But there was more she didn't say. She didn't mention that Axel had stopped eating his food, that he slept in Lily's closet now, curled around a pair of sneakers with pink laces, that Jacob had begun recording Axel's escapes, watching the footage late at night, hoping without knowing why that something in it might make sense. Then, one afternoon, the neighbor across the street, Margaret Ellis, knocked gently at their door. "I wasn't going to say anything," she began, glancing over her shoulder, "but I saw something. That day at the lake." Emily froze. "What?" "I saw Axel break his leash. When the screaming started, he didn't run to the dock. He ran the other way, toward the old boathouse." Emily felt her breath catch. "But the witness," she whispered. "Tyler Kane, he said he saw Lily go under." He pointed to the dock. Margaret nodded, slowly. "Exactly. Got everyone looking that way. But your dog, he wasn't fooled." The memory landed like a stone in Emily's stomach. She hadn't questioned the story. No one had. Why would they? Tyler was new in town, but he'd been helpful. Calm, direct. He'd even stayed after the rescue attempt, comforting bystanders and answering questions for the sheriff. But now, looking back, it didn't quite add up, and Axel had known something wasn't right from the start. That night, Jacob sat on the porch with Axel by his side. The dog gnawed at the screen door until his teeth bled. "I've locked him in every room," Jacob muttered as Sheriff Walker pulled up beside the house. "Every garage, every damn shed, he still finds a way out." Walker stood silent for a long moment. Then he said softly, "I think it's time we open the casket." Jacob flinched. "It's empty." "You said that," the sheriff replied. "But if the whole town sees it, if we all see it together, maybe we stop arguing about whether the dogs are crazy." Jacob looked into the darkness. Axel sat perfectly, still, eyes locked on the horizon. "Then we're not digging up a grave," Jacob said finally. "We're digging up the truth." The cemetery was still cloaked in early morning fog when the sheriff's squad car rolled through its gates. Headlights off, no sirens, no fanfare. In the back seat, Jacob Miller sat stone-faced, mud still caked under his fingernails. Axel rested, his head on Jacob's lap, his ears twitching at every rustle of wind, every crunch of gravel beneath the tires. Emily rode in a separate vehicle, flanked by two deputies, clutching her sister's hand with white knuckles. She hadn't wanted to come. "If it's empty, Em, we have to be there to see it," her sister had said. "We have to know." And now, as they stepped onto the dew-soaked grass, a crowd had already gathered behind the yellow tape. It was just past dawn, and yet dozens had come bundled in jackets and flannel shirts, some holding thermoses, some holding each other. Silver Ridge wasn't a town that let go of its own easily, Sheriff. Walker gave a silent nod to the gravediggers. No machinery, just shovels. If this was going to happen, it had to be by hand. Respectfully, carefully. The first shovelful of dirt came up, dark and damp. The crowd hushed. Even the birds seemed to pause. Axel sat beside Jacob, motionless, his gaze never leaving the grave. 30 minutes passed. Then at last the casket, white, mud-stained, weather-worn, Dr. Rachel Moore from the state police stepped forward, clipboard in hand. "Gloves on, Mr. and Mrs. Miller," she said gently. "I need your permission." Jacob didn't hesitate. "Do it." With a nod, she turned the latches. The metal groaned. The lid lifted. The breath left the cemetery. It was empty. No teddy bear. No books. No bracelet with crooked beads spelling out Lily. Just satin, clean, untouched, as if no one had ever been buried there. Emily swayed. Her sister caught her. Jacob's jaw clenched. Rachel Moore reached for her radio, but before she could speak, Axel surged forward. His leash slipped through Jacob's fingers. The crowd braced, but Axel didn't jump into the casket. He circled it, sniffed its edges, then sat back and let out a howlong low, soul-deep. It wasn't a sound of grief. It was a declaration. Now, do you believe me? Back at the sheriff's office, everything changed. This isn't a drowning, Walker said, pacing in front of a large map of the lake. This is a missing person case. Possibly abduction. Possibly staged. Deputy Holloway, young and wide-eyed, flipped through Lily's file. But Tyler Kane said Walker snapped. He said he saw her go under. That's not evidence, that's narrative. Rachel Moore leaned over the table, eyes scanning the file. No body, no trace, and Collins signed the death certificate without physical evidence. She tapped the folder. That's sloppy at best, at worst. It's deliberate. Jacob stood in the doorway, arms crossed. You think the doctor's involved? Moore shrugged. Too early to say. But someone tampered with that casket. My guess, the items were never placed inside. Emily entered the room, holding something in her hand. It was Lily's hairbrush. Axel brought this to me, she said. Last night, from under her bed. She held it out. Several bristles were missing. He pulled 5 out, she added, and buried each one in a different spot around the yard. Walker frowned. Why 5? I don't know, Emily said. But it wasn't random. He knew. Moore stood. I want to dig those spots today. By afternoon, the sky had turned an angry grey. Clouds pressed low over Silver Ridge as Jacob, Walker, and Moore followed Axel through the yard. At the third location, beneath a patch of ivy, Jacob's shovel hit something hard. He bent down, pulled it up, a receipt, water-stained, torn, but still legible. Gas station, 50 miles away. Time stamped just hours after Lily vanished. Name on the card. Tyler Kane. Walker stared at it. Why would he be that far away so soon? He was supposed to be at the lake, Jacob whispered. He pointed. Got everyone looking. Maybe that's what he wanted. Moore cut in, to be seen helping, while someone else moved Lily. That night, Walker sat in his kitchen, a printout in front of him. It was Kane's rental application. The social security number belonged to a man who died in 1998. Fake name. Fake background. Fake hero. He picked up his phone. We're reopening this case. I want everything Kane touched. Tested dock, picnic site, boathouse. A voice interrupted him. What cabin? Walker turned. Jacob stood in the doorway. The one Axel led us to this afternoon. Off the trail, abandoned. Moore entered seconds later. I checked it out. She reached into her evidence bag, pulled out something small, plastic, fragile, a bracelet. The beads were faded, but the name was still there. L-I-L. Emily gasped. I made that, she whispered, for her 5th birthday. Walker's voice was low. How did it end up in a cabin 50 miles away? No one answered, because they all knew what it meant. The next morning, the sun rose over Silver Ridge, but for the Millers, it didn't bring warmth. It brought action by dawn. The FBI had officially joined the investigation. The hidden cabin and the discovery of Lily's bracelet shifted the case. From local mystery to federal emergency. Tyler Caniff, that was even his real name, had vanished. 2 weeks after Lily's funeral, No forwarding address. No social footprint. Paid everything in cash. He didn't just disappear. He erased himself. Rachel. Moore worked around the clock, combing through surveillance footage, transaction records, and license plate logs. At a gas station near a closed church in Mapleton, an elderly woman's dashboard camera caught a glimpse of a Van Ohio plate pulling out from the parking lot inside that van. Blurred by fog and distance was the silhouette of a small child and a teddy bear, the route traced north toward the Canadian border. Meanwhile, Axel's behavior changed again. He stopped going to the cemetery now. He forged a new path every morning, sniffing school fences, playgrounds, the bench near the ice cream shop where Lily used to beg for sprinkles. He's checking for fresh scent, said Dr. Karen Lewis, a canine behavior specialist. German shepherds can remember scent profiles for years. He's not searching randomly. He's building a map. Jacob followed Axel religiously. Leash in one hand, notebook in the other. Every turn, every pause, every bark, logged and time-stamped. Hope, it turned out, could look a lot like madness. But sometimes, it's both. That evening, Axel stopped at the edge of the woods behind Silver Ridge High School. His tail stiffened, ears perked. Then he barked sharp. Urgent. Jacob looked where Axel was staring. A narrow trail, half hidden by fallen leaves, disappeared into the trees. It led to a place Jacob hadn't thought about in years, the old Maple Ridge water treatment plant, shut down a decade ago. Overgrown, forgotten, county property nobody bothered with anymore. To a kid, it might look like a clubhouse. To Jacob, it looked like a place to hide something or someone. Rachel Moore arrived minutes later, radio already crackling. Axel was pulling at his leash, posture tight, nose to the ground. Not searching, tracking. Let him lead, Moore said. Jacob unclipped the leash. Axel darted ahead, weaving between trees and rusted fence posts, heading not to the main building, but to a squat utility shed behind it. Vines curled around its walls. The door was padlocked, but Axel didn't scratch. He sniffed, then sat there. Jacob whispered. He found something. Fresh boot prints, deep and clean in the mud. Not hikers. Rachel stepped back, voice tense into her radio. Sheriff Walker, this is Moore. We have probable cause. Unknown suspects may be active. Requesting immediate backup. Then she drew her weapon. Jacob found a rusted pipe near the fence and gripped it like an old habit. I'll go first. Moore, said. Jacob nodded, but didn't let go of the pipe. She struck the lock 3 times. It gave with a groan. The door creaked open. The smell hit them first, stale cigarette smoke, bleach, mold, and something beneath it all, sterile and wrong. The room was small, bare, just a chair, a table, a lantern, several plastic bins stacked against one wall, each labeled with dates and numbers, a faded rug in the center. Axel lunged toward it. Wait. Jacob called, but too late. Axel was already tearing it aside, revealing loose floorboards. Moore stepped forward, lifting a small Ziploc bag. Inside, plastic beads, shaky lettering .L-I-L. Jacob staggered back. That was in her casket. Not any more, Moore said grimly. She pressed her radio. We have evidence of movement. Possible trafficking site. This is real. Within 2 hours, the clearing buzzed with federal agents, deputies, and forensic units. The boxes in the shed were catalogued carefully, Inside were children's belongings, ID cards, stuffed animals, socks, labeled bags of small trinkets, each tagged with name, date, location. Dozens of names. Many were already in missing persons databases. Presumed drownings, disappearances, accidents with no bodies recovered. A quiet FBI agent muttered, "This is a trophy room. They're tracking them, tagging them like merchandise." Jacob stared at a pink shoelace in a sealed bag. Lake NC, June 22nd. The world blurred. That night, Emily sat across from Moore and Walker in a conference room at the sheriff's office. Jacob beside her. Axel curled at their feet. Moore laid out the evidence, photos, logs, labels. Then she opened a file labeled Miller, L. Inside were photos. Some old Lily riding her bike, walking to school, holding Axel's leash. All taken without consent. But two were new. One showed Lily with cropped hair, standing in a backyard. The other showed her staring out a window. Timestamp, 3 weeks ago, Emily gasped. "She's alive," Jacob whispered. "We think she's being moved again," Moore said. "According to this log, there's a scheduled transfer. Today, October 15th, Cumberland property." Moore checked her watch. "Today's the 15th. An FBI convoy mobilized within the hour. 3 rural properties were flagged. One a former dairy farm in northern Ohio, matched activity from a known shell company linked to other trafficking routes. As the black SUVs sped through fog-choked highways, Jacob sat in the back of a command vehicle. Axel pressed against his leg. "I'm going with you," Jacob told the agent in charge. "No civilians," the man replied. But Moore cut in. "He's not just a father. He's got Axel. That dog found what our tech never did." The agent hesitated, then nodded. "When the perimeter's secure, he and the dog go in, with a handler." The sun was rising when they reached the property. Mist curled through the cornfields. The house, barely visible from the road, looked like nothing, just another forgotten farm. But binoculars told a different story. Movement in the windows, a van by the barn, a child's bicycle half hidden beneath a tarp. Walker's voice crackled in Jacob's earpiece. "Thermal shows 8 kids. Inside, several adults. We've got them. All units in position." The commander announced, "Execute on my mark. 3, 2, go." Agents surged from the fields like shadows. Doors crashed open. Shouts echoed through the trees. Jacob gripped Axel's harness, heart pounding. "Children secured," someone called out. "First floor clear." Moving up more, turned. "Go." Jacob didn't run. Axel did. He tore through the threshold, down a hallway, nose to the ground, at the end of the corridor. A door stood ajar. Axel pushed through. Jacob followed on, froze. On a cot, curled beneath a threadbare blanket, was a girl with tooth-thin arms, cropped hair, and wide, frightened eyes. She looked up. "Daddy." Her voice cracked like breaking glass. Jacob dropped to his knees. She flew into his arms. Axel circled them once, barking a sharp, triumphant sound that shook the room. "I knew you'd come," Lily whispered into her father's chest. "Told Axel every night where I was. I told him about the shutters, and the road, and the tree. I told him in my head. I knew he'd hear me." Jacob sobbed, holding her tighter. "We heard you, baby. We heard you." Axel sat beside them, tail thumping once. The rescue was real. But it had only just begun. The ambulance raced toward Cleveland Children's Trauma Center, with sirens cutting through the morning haze. Inside, Jacob held Lily tightly, her frail body wrapped in warm blankets. Her eyes were wide, not with fear now, but with disbelief. She was safe, but Axel wasn't. A second vehicle followed closely behind, retrofitted for K9 emergency transport. Axel lay still, strapped to a special gurney, monitors beeping with quiet urgency. His gums were pale, his breathing shallow, internal, bleeding, broken ribs, a ruptured spleen. He had given everything he had to find her. Inside the operating suite, Dr. Melissa Chen barked orders to her team. Start fluids. Prep for emergency splenectomy. I want that heart monitor stable now. Down the hall, Lily clutched Jacob's hand with sudden panic. Where are they taking him? Jacob crouched beside her. He's hurt, sweetheart. He fought hard to protect you. They're going to fix him. Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. He just found me. Don't let him die. Dr. Chen had an idea. She gently handed Lily a stethoscope. Axel knows your heartbeat. That rhythm, that sound, it's how dogs remember safety. We're going to record it, and we'll play it during surgery, so he knows you're close. Lily blinked, her voice trembling. You can do that. We already are. She pressed a small microphone to Lily's chest. Lily whispered, voice barely a breath. It's me. I'm safe. You found me. Now it's your turn to come back. Please, I need you. Across the hospital, in a windowless room lined with files and screens, Sheriff Ben Walker, Rachel Moore, and 2 FBI agents stared grimly at the evidence. It's worse than we thought, Moore said. We've confirmed a coded legend. Initials, locations, all tied to children listed in their trophy archive. Walker's fingers stopped on one yellow highlighted entry. Miller, L. Transfer complete, October 15th. Cumberland property. They'd been days from losing her forever. Here's what else we found, one agent said. He handed over a small device, Lily's digital wristwatch. Look closer. A tiny lens blinked back. A camera, Moore whispered. They recorded her through her own eyes. And the doctor? Jacob asked, now standing quietly in the corner, arms crossed. Dr. Collins wasn't just involved, Moore said. He orchestrated cover-ups. 7 false death certificates, all signed by him, including Lily's. She opened a worn leather-bound journal. Inside, names, details, justifications, and at the end a confession. Tyler Kane was a field operator, she explained, but the recruiter, the man who selected victims, worked through medical channels. Collins made the referrals. He used his position to give the operation credibility. Jacob didn't speak. He didn't have to dot his silence, said everything in the ICU. Lily was wheeled into a private room. Axel's leash looped over the hospital bed's edge like a lifeline. The dog lay beneath a blanket, a shaved patch along his side. IVs in both legs, monitors humming. Hi, boy, Lily whispered. I'm here, just like you found me. Axel's ear twitched. His tail thumped once. He was still fighting. News of the rescue spread like wildfire. By nightfall, the story broke nationwide. 17 children were rescued in coordinated raids, every one of them linked to accidental drownings or disappearances, and in almost every case, there had been a dog, ignored, dismissed, except for Axel, for weeks. The Miller house in Silver Ridge became a place of healing. Yellow tulips bloomed near the mailbox. Wind chimes whispered on the porch. Lily, now 9, spent her afternoons curled on the rug, brushing Axel's fur and talking softly. "You remember the red barn?" she asked one day. "That was the second place they took me. I used to pretend the leaky roof was Morse code. Like someone was trying to send me a message." Jacob and Emily listened from the kitchen. They didn't interrupt. Let her talk, Dr. Winters, Lily's trauma therapist, had told them. Let her write her own narrative. "She talks to him every night," Emily whispered. "Not like a pet, like he's a journal." "He is," Jacob said. "He's the only thing that never broke." At the Cleveland FBI field office, the investigation continued with brutal intensity. Rachel Moore paced before a corkboard covered in red string, photos, sticky notes. "We've identified 3 more shell companies," she told the task force. 2 in Indiana, 1 in western Pennsylvania. All used to move children between sites. She pointed to a photo of a white farmhouse with green shutters. "This one used repeatedly. Every rotation of children passed through here. It was the last stop before the border, and the buyer list." Another agent asked. "Still encrypted, but we've got fingerprints, DNA, survivor testimony, and the biggest break video footage from Lily's wristwatch." The screen lit up with a still frame, a kitchen, a man's voice, the sound of a door locking. The room went silent. Back home, Lily returned to school part-time, therapy twice a week. Axel now an officially certified trauma response. K9 ever left her side. The badge on his vest read, "Axel, certified hero." One afternoon, Lily stood on the school playground, hand on Axel's collar. Her classmates hovered, unsure. "Okay." Lily said softly, "You first." Axel plopped down near the swings, tongue out, tail wagging. A giggle broke the silence, then another. Within minutes, Lily was surrounded, smiling, talking, petting. The leash in her hand wasn't just a tether, it was a bridge. That evening, Sheriff Walker knocked on their door with a sealed envelope. "The governor's office," he said. Inside, an invitation. Axel was being awarded the State Animal Hero Medal, the first of its kind, for extraordinary service and loyalty in the face of human evil. Lily beamed. "He gets a medal and a parade," Emily added. Jacob smiled. He already won. Meanwhile, arrests swept across the Midwest. 14 suspects in custody, 2 dead in standoffs. One Tyler Kane, now confirmed as Michael Lawson, agreed to testify in exchange for protection. He handled transport routes, fake IDs, local scouting, Moore explained. But Lily She was chosen. "Why?" Emily asked, voice tight. "Profile, intelligence, adaptability." Collins picked her. Silence. "He was our family doctor," Emily whispered. "He was your betrayer," Moore replied. 3 nights later, Lily woke from a nightmare, kicking, gasping, screaming. But Axel was already there, pressed to her chest, nose under her chin. Her sobs slowed, her breathing calmed. "He came first," she whispered when Jacob rushed in. "Before anyone else. You're home now," he told her softly. "You're safe." And for the first time in months, she believed it. Spring returned to Silver Ridge quietly, without fanfare. No headlines, no sirens, just soft winds through yellow tulips, the hush of wind chimes above the Miller porch, and the sound of a girl's laughter echoing from the backyard again. Lily, now fully 9, sat cross-legged on a blanket, brushing Axel's fur while he lay stretched beside her, tail twitching with satisfaction. The limp in his step remained, but his spirit had returned, bold as ever. "You remember the pine tree?" she whispered to him. "That was the last place they took me. The one with the swing tied up high. I told you about it every night." Axel blinked slowly. His eyes were half closed, but alert in the kitchen. Emily and Jacob watched from the window in silence. "She still tells him everything," Emily said, "like he's holding it for her." "He is," Jacob replied. "He always has." The governor's ceremony was held 2 weeks later, beneath a banner that read service, loyalty, courage. The crowd was larger than anyone expected. Hundreds of people from neighboring towns to reporters from across the country. But in the front row sat one girl, one family, and one dog who had changed everything. Axel's vest had been brushed and polished. The gold medallion gleamed against his fur. When it was Lily's turn to speak, she stepped forward quietly, paper in hand, Axel by her side. "My name is Lily Miller," she said. "I was taken, but I wasn't lost, because someone never stopped." Looking, she paused, then looked down at Axel. "He's more than my dog. He's the one who heard me, when I couldn't scream, when I couldn't move. I talked to him every night in my head, and somehow he listened." The crowd fell silent. A few people wiped tears. Some clasped their hands to their hearts. "I used to think no one was coming," Lily said softly, "but Axel, he believed, even when I couldn't, and that's what saved me." A beat of silence, then thunderous applause. Axel barked once, sharp and proud. Back home, things didn't go back to normal. They went forward. The Millers began visiting schools, trauma centers, police departments, telling Axel's story, sharing what they'd learned. "Lily," insisted Axel, "be present for every talk. He's the reason I'm here." She always said, at one event, a boy named Mason, rescued from a similar ring, hesitantly reached out to pet Axel. The dog didn't move, but his eyes softened. Mason smiled for the first time in months. Later that night, Lily lay beside Axel beneath the stars. "I know you can't stay forever," she whispered, "but as long as you're here, I'm safe." Axel rested his head on her lap. Some stories end with a fade to black. This one ends in yellow sunlight, in a girl who survived, in a dog who never gave up, and in a bond that neither distance, nor time, nor evil could ever break. But the story isn't over, because somewhere out there along the same hidden roads, in forgotten barns and shuttered buildings, there may be other children, other names, other stories waiting to be uncovered, and if they're out there, Axel just might know where to find them.